Thank you, Mr. President. It's hard to believe that it's been 2 years since we're standing here talking about the tragedy in Buffalo that took 10 lives on May 14th, 2022. I have a vivid remembrance of that day because it was a beautiful sunny day. It was one of the first weekend days where it was warm and we're coming out of our winter hibernation and people are running errands. The streets are full of people in cars and walking around. And I went into the backyard for a few hours, left my cell phone in the kitchen. I was doing yard work, and I started hearing a helicopter buzzing over and over. And then I started hearing a lot of sirens. And my wife came out and said, "You better come inside because your phone's blowing up." And it's not what I expected when I picked up that phone. So we know the story. A murderous racist drove 2.5 hours, seemingly for no reason, to come to Buffalo to open fire on innocent people at a supermarket. Celestine Cheney, Roberta Drury, Andre McNeil, Catherine Massey, Margus Morrison, Hayward Patterson, Aaron Salter, Geraldine Talley, Ruth Winfield, and Pearl Young. They all lost their lives within minutes that day. Christopher Braden, Zaire Goodman, Jennifer Warrington, they were all wounded but miraculously survived. The only thing that any of these people did to make them a target that day was to go live their ordinary lives and go shopping at a grocery store in a predominantly black neighborhood. 2 years have passed, but the memory is still just as fresh, it's just as raw. And for the families of the victim, grief hasn't gone away. The survivors, the trauma hasn't gone away. For our entire Buffalo community, the anger, the sorrow, the losses we all feel hasn't gone away. But I guess it's not supposed to go away. When we experience loss, grief doesn't dissipate over time. If you lose somebody and someone says it'll get better, it'll go away, that's a lie. It doesn't go away. What happens is we grow our life around it. We take that pain, we hold on to it, but we move forward because that's what we have to do. We learn how to live with the grief. We don't let it hold us back, but it doesn't go away. On May 14th, 2022, the white supremacists came to our city with one goal, and that was to tear a hole in the heart of the black community. And there's no doubt he opened up a painful wound. On that awful day, it was hard to see past the tragedy at hand. But even today, the pain is never far from the minds of those who lost loved ones. In Buffalo's black community, who witnessed a direct attack, they feel it every day. But in our collective grief, Buffalo has come together. With time, the community has begun to get back on its feet. And while we continue to mourn the losses, the people of the East Side are persevering. They're living their lives. They're celebrating birthdays, wedding anniversaries, holidays, graduations, and wedding. But each of those remembrances, each of those celebrations, there's something missing from everybody because something was taken that day that can never be put back. But every day, the people are sending a clear message, and that's one hateful act, no matter how much pain it caused, will not rip apart and break the spirit of our community. But the tragedy, it didn't happen in a vacuum. The east side of Buffalo, which is home to what we call Black Buffalo, has had much more to contend with than this awful, catastrophic day. The attack was layered upon decades of grinding, persistent, systemic racism. African Americans came to Buffalo as part of the Great Migration, full of hope with job opportunities, to work in the steel and auto industries, to fill a labor need. But they were met with the North's version of Jim Crow. It's not as obvious, it's not as pernicious, but boy, is it every bit as destructive. They were met with redlining, housing discrimination, employment discrimination, and decades later, still persistent segregation. So May 14th was the explanation point of a slow-moving tragedy. So while the community slowly recovered from the attack, the baseline that they're returning to is as much of a problem today as it was 2 years ago. The area is still a food desert. The neighborhood is still barren from decades of demolitions and disinvestments. Every social indicator, whether it's individual wealth, family wealth, home ownership, health outcomes, Black Buffalonians and East Sides, worse off than anyone else in the whole city. So we're left with the important question to ponder. What are we going to do about it? Will this strategy catalyze us? Will it make us address the issues that have been weighing down Buffalo and other cities, communities for decades? I'm optimistic. I think we're finally starting to move in the right direction, but we have a lot of work to do as a state and as a country. But we're finally recognizing the institutional racism that led to the inequality that we see today. But real change, it's going to come slow, and it's only going to come if we all work together and we're all pulling in the same direction. Jillian Haynesworth was Buffalo's first poet laureate. She wrote a poem called Water, where she talks about that reality. The poem was installed at Top Supermarket as part of the in-store memorial to the victims of the shooting. The poem's a hopeful call to all of us in the community to recognize that we all have a part to do. And as Jillian puts it, our small marks on this huge world are necessary. But let me read it to you in Jillian Haynesworth's words. And I don't know where she finds her optimism, but I applaud her for it. Let the hopeful, healing waters flow, ushering a rebirth of our sense of self. Let the flowing waters remind us of time, current, yet fleeting like life itself, large, yet within reach of our ancestors. Let the hopeful, healing waters flow, cleansing all pain and all fear, all hurt and regret. Let the water heal our people, reminding us that even our small marks on this huge world are necessary. Let the hopeful, healing waters flow. Let the water tell the stories of those who came before us, those who fought and those who believed in us, those with the strength and the power of a high tide, those with the meekness of a still pond. Let the beauty of the unknown offer comfort and hope, for within water there will always be life.